Lightning was still striking, the hail was falling, I was still dying.
Julia and the other survivors were eventually rescued. But in the aftermath of the crash, she struggled to find answers in religion.
If there is a God, and if that God is all-knowing, they must know that we're in pain. And if that God is all-powerful, why would they let it happen? I just couldn't imagine a God with a plan that involved young girls dying in plane crashes while their parents survived.
In the years after the crash, Julia battled acute emotional and psychological trauma.
I felt like I was losing my mind. My world had just been completely destroyed. I went crazy. And the trauma was so intense that my brain wasn't functioning anymore the way it used to. One of the things I lost in the burning plane was happiness. I was at the worst depths of despair and mental problems and incapacity to have relationships. I was scared of things. Nothing felt safe to me. I thought the crash might still kill me. Like, that's how imminent the danger seemed for many years.
Julia had her doubts about religion. But one day she met a Buddhist teacher who had himself been in a plane that had almost crashed.
There was this amazing connection where I realized this man knows. He described the difficulties that he went through, and then he talked about how he overcame it. And I realized that he may very well have the answer.
Julia began a course of meditation and found with it the beginnings of recovery.
Spirituality is all about infusing meaning into life. And trauma almost inevitably is about a senseless, terrifying event. How do I make sense of this in the context of my life as a whole?
I feel like I've made amazing progress about how to train the mind so that you're controlling your experience instead of being a victim of your experience. Less than a year after I started studying, I walked onto an airplane with no drugs, no alcohol, and flew without fear. So I know it works.
Julia is one of the survivors who found happiness out of the wreckage of a plane crash. Their stories are inspirational, and Valerie Collins is just beginning that journey.
Right now, it's still a scary thing. It's still a stressful event. You know, it's still a traumatic memory. And I hope I'll look back, 5 or 10 years from now, and I will see, hopefully, a lot of positives that come out of being a passenger on 1549.
Valerie draws inspiration from the tiny group of plane crash survivors who share her experience and know recovery is possible.
The other 3 people that survived, it's amazing. There's like an unspoken bond that we share, and everybody has moved on in their own way. But I think it's a bond and it's a memory that we'll never be able to forget or erase.
Having people to share the experience is vital to the process of recovery. The flight crew of the 1989 Sioux City crash have kept in close contact ever since.
It's a moment in time that can't be brought to anybody else except those who shared it.
There's a tremendous degree of strength that comes from periodically gathering together with other survivors who've been through the same thing. We made it, and we wrote it out together.
If somebody goes through something and they're the sole survivor, boy, I don't know how they deal with that. You've got somebody with you that went through that with you, and that's important.
What is that?
Together, these survivors now view the crash not as a tragedy, but a turning point, a springboard toward a better life.
And one of the greatest things that's come out is meeting my husband, because I was in such a fast pace that I don't know that I would have taken the time to meet him if I hadn't experienced the plane crash, getting married, having 2 children. you really do appreciate things.
After that accident, you're never sure tomorrow's coming. So you never leave anybody that you love without telling them that you love them. You hug them, you kiss them, you talk to them all the time.
They've been through nightmares that many people have trouble even imagining. And if you've been through that and made it to the other side, then you're in a wonderful position not just to survive, but to thrive and excel.
To me, life was always a rainbow. I saw colors. After the accident, instead of seeing just the simple colors, I see the hues in between the bands now. I've taken it up to a higher level.
Mercedes Ramirez Johnson is now happily married and lives with her husband and 4 children in Dallas, Texas.
People always have a choice. You can either wallow in the pain, or you can use that pain to give you that motivation that much more to find real happiness.
Julia Fergenchick has recently completed a 10,000-mile motorbike trip across 17 states, something she would never have had the strength to try before her recovery from the crash.
I'm still grateful for it, because I don't know how else I could have learned those kind of lessons. It's been a very powerful, motivating factor in my life that I don't know another kind of event or circumstance that could have done that.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the day.
Kelly Duncan Moore continues working her dream job, teaching Bible classes to children in Miami.
I can actually look back and say I wouldn't trade a thing. I feel like being in the plane crash saved my life because I feel like I had a second chance at life.